Hello everybody and welcome to another online video. This one is going to be looking at 1.2 from theme 1 again, and what we're going to be looking at in this video is 1.2.6 and 1.2.7 from the specification. So we're starting to think here about what we call a market equilibrium diagram. So what happens in a market when you put together both the sellers and the buyers together, so supply and demand together, onto one diagram. Right, now before we think about that though, I've got some revision questions that I want you to think about, please. So in your blue books, what I would like you to do, please, is to put down your answers for these 6 different questions here. So the 3 on the left are about demand. So what I need you to do is to draw for me different demand curves. So in A, I'm looking for you to draw a demand curve and use that demand curve to explain what we mean by contractions and extensions in demand. B and C, I'm looking for shifts in demand, so changes in demand for non-price reasons. So B, draw an outward shift in demand, C, draw an inward shift in demand, and explain some possible causes of those shifts in demand. Now supply, the questions on the right hand side are very, very similar. So D, use a supply curve to explain the concepts of both contractions and extensions in supply. And then E and F, draw for me outward and inward shifts in supply and put down some possible causes of those outward and inward shifts in supply, please. Right, so hit pause, put down your answers. When you feel like you've written down your answers and you're comfortable with what you've done, hit play and we'll carry on with the rest of the video. Right, everyone, now here is the new theory then. Now, I'm going to focus first of all on the diagram that you can see in the top right-hand corner of your page. We've got a demand curve. So what we've got is a downward sloping demand curve, and that is based on the law of demand. As price levels fall, people become willing and able to buy more. And I've also added a supply curve. And you've got there the basic law of supply. As price levels increase, firms become more willing and able to produce. As price levels grow, there's an increased ability to generate profit, so firms will produce more. Right, now the interesting point on this diagram though is where demand and supply meet each other. So in this diagram you can see with the red lines, demand and supply meet each other at price star, quantity star. Now we've got here a market equilibrium diagram. We determine prices in markets when supply meets demand. So we found a price level here that what firms are willing and able to sell in a market is exactly equal to what people are willing and able to buy. Now the idea is in a free market economy, the assumption will be that price levels will naturally gravitate towards the point where supply is equal to demand. Now let's think about how that can happen. In that diagram, if we were to go above price star, we can hopefully see that we've got here what we call an excess supply. So when price levels are too high in a marketplace, the supply exceeds the demand. So the further above P star that we go, the bigger the level of excess supply becomes. Now all this means is we've got a price level here where firms are willing and able to produce and sell more than what people are willing and able to buy. So when you've got an excess supply, what it in effect means is firms are trying to sell more than what people are willing and able to buy. So what needs to happen is the market price would need to fall. And as price levels start to fall, there'll be an extension in demand, there'll be a contraction in supply, and the market will move back towards equilibrium at P star, Q star. Now, if the price was below P star, the demand would exceed the supply. Because price levels are so low, the demand is really, really high relative to the supply. So when you've got more people willing and able to buy something than what firms are willing and able to sell, then the market price will need to increase to clear the market. So as price levels start to go back up again, the level of excess demand will start to fall, and we move back into equilibrium at P star, Q star. So the market clearing price is where demand equals supply. Now the logic would be, everyone, that this will happen automatically. So the idea is whenever you've got excess supply in a market, more supply than demand, the price levels will start to fall, and that would lead to the market clearing again. If you had more demand than supply, then price levels will need to go back up to clear the market. Now, this process of how prices will ensure that markets move towards equilibrium is called the workings of the invisible hand. Okay, so the forces of supply and demand will work together to ensure that markets will move to the point where P star is equal to Q star. Right, I now want you to hit pause and think about these 4 different questions, please. So draw me now a market equilibrium diagram and indicate the market clearing price and quantity. So you might label that P star, Q star. And then for B, I want you to think about how the invisible hand will help tackle and solve the problems of excess supply and excess demand. That kind of brings in C as well. Then finally, D is how the invisible hand will correct excess supply in a marketplace. So guys, B, C and D are about the concept of excess demand and excess supply. So hit pause, write down your answers. When you're happy with what you've written down, hit play and we'll carry on with the rest of the video. Right, what we're now going to do is to show the impacts that changes in demand and supply will have in a marketplace. Now, in this diagram here, just imagine we're starting off with demand 1 and supply 1. So the equilibrium price was P1 and the quantity being demanded and sold in the market is equal to Q1. Now, what we know is that when we have an outward shift in demand, then demand will move from D1 to D2. Now, we should be comfortable with what makes a demand curve move outwards. It could be a business, improving their advertising so people view their products more favourably. It could be they've improved their brand image, which means that more people naturally want to buy that particular product. It could be that substitutes have become more expensive, so more people buy this one. It could be that complements have become cheaper, so people demand more of those, and they naturally demand more of this one. It could be that people are earning more money, which means they can buy more of this, which could be a normal good. Now, look what happens, everyone. When the demand shifts outwards, we're going to get a new market equilibrium point at price 2, quantity 2. So when demand moves outwards, the impact on the market will be that price levels will increase and the quantity being demanded and sold will also increase. Now, look at that orange arrow, though, as well. At price 1, at the original equilibrium point, demand was equal to supply. But when demand moves outwards at the original price of P1, there is now an excess demand problem. So what people are willing and able to buy at P1 exceeds what businesses are willing and able to produce at P1. So what needs to happen is the market price needs to increase. So the invisible hand will now mean that price levels will grow. So look at the orange arrow. At price 1, that was the original excess demand. But the idea will now be as price levels start to increase, supply will extend and demand will start to contract along D2 and the market will clear again at P2, Q2. Right, next diagram, we've got the opposite now. We've got an inward shift in demand. So people are now less willing and able to buy this good for non-price reasons. Now, what we can see here again, the original equilibrium point was at P1, Q1. But when demand moves inwards, the market will clear at a lower price and a lower quantity. So the market will shrink and the prices that firms will charge will, unfortunately for them, have to go down. So look what happens now. When we were in equilibrium at P1, Q1, the demand was equal to the supply. But when demand moves inwards, we've now got an excess supply problem. So we've now got a point where at P1, supply is still at Q1, but demand is now far lower. And that orange arrow shows the size of the excess supply. So firms are supplying more in markets at price 1 than what people are willing and able to buy. So what now needs to happen is the market price needs to fall down to P2. Now, as price levels start to fall, we're going to get a bit of an extension in demand. We're going to get a bit of a contraction in supply. And the invisible hand will ensure that, again, demand will equal supply, albeit at a lower price of P2 and a lower quantity. Right, next one. We've got now an outward shift in supply. So you can see the impact on the market of an outward shift in supply now. Now the idea is, again, the market was in equilibrium originally at P1 Q1. So demand 1 meets S1 at P1 Q1. But what we know is when business costs fall, there'll be an outward shift in supply. So look what that therefore means. When that supply moves outwards, the market will now clear at P2 and at Q2. So the market has got bigger, it's grown from Q1 to Q2, and the market price will fall from P1 to P2. Okay, now think about why. At price 1, when we look to the original equilibrium point of D1 S1, the market was in equilibrium. But when the supply moves outwards, at the original price level of P1, we've got an excess supply in the market. What firms are willing and able to supply at P1 exceeds what consumers are willing and able to buy. So what needs to happen to clear the market? The invisible hand will force prices downwards to P2. And as price levels fall, well, demand will extend and supply will contract along S2, and then we'll be in equilibrium again at P2 Q2. So when you have an outward shift in supply, everyone, there'll be a reduction in market prices and the market will get bigger. It will grow from Q1 to Q2. Right, the final one of these 4 diagrams, everyone, will be an inward shift in supply. So again, the market is in equilibrium at D1 S1 originally, which means the price is P1 and the quantity is Q1. Now, if business costs increase, what we know is firms are less willing and able to produce. So the supply curve will shift inwards to S2. Now look what that therefore will do. The market price will increase and the market will now get smaller. So there's less people buying and selling in the marketplace and the market price has increased. Think about why. At price 1, originally based on demand 1 and S1, that the market was in equilibrium at this level. But when supply moves inwards, we've now got an excess demand situation, and that's measured by the orange arrow here. Now, when you've got an excess demand, the market price will need to increase to clear the market. So price levels will grow from P1 to P2. This would lead to a contraction in demand and an extension in supply. So the market will clear at P2 Q2. Right, guys, I've chucked at you there a heck of a lot of theory. But hopefully what you've picked up on is that when demand or supply shifts outwards or inwards, the reason behind it is the same reason that we were looking at with demand and supply on their own. All we're now showing is the impact on the size of the market and the market price when demand either moves outwards or inwards, or supply moves outwards or inwards. So I want you to now reflect on what you've just done. If you can please write down these 4 questions, so 3A, B, C and D, draw these diagrams and explain what these changes will have on the market price and quantity. And when you feel like you're comfortable with this theory, please carry on with the rest of the video. So guys, please hit pause now, and when you're ready, hit play to watch the last couple of slides, please. Right guys, just to end this, we've talked about prices a lot in this video. How the invisible hand will mean that price levels will adjust to clear markets. So what we should be happy with is when there is an excess demand in the market, price levels will increase. When you've got excess supply in the market, price levels will go downwards. Now we can also think about prices by thinking about something we call the rationing function, the signalling function, and the incentive function. Now the rationing function is dead easy. The idea is that when price levels increase, people will start to ration their consumption of different goods and services. So you start to use it more efficiently. So for example, if my petrol prices start to increase, I might start to make a few less journeys each week. If my energy bills start to increase, I might turn the thermostat down a couple of degrees in my house to save a little bit of money. So when price levels increase, people will ration things a lot more. They will use things more carefully, more efficiently. If price levels fall, then people will ration things less. If they're dirt cheap, people don't feel like they need to ration them or use them that efficiently. So think about what that means. When price levels increase, people ration things more. But when price levels fall, people will ration things less efficiently. Right, the next one is something called the signalling function. Now, the idea is that signals are sent out to both buyers and sellers in markets when price levels change. Now, think about producers with this then. If there's an increase in prices in a market, that will signal to businesses that there must be an excess demand in that marketplace. And that would signal to them that's a good market to move into and therefore supply more in that marketplace. If price levels are falling, then businesses would think, well, that must mean there's excess supply in that marketplace. So that would be a really, really bad market to move into. And that might signal to some firms, because price levels are falling, maybe it's time to leave that particular marketplace. So the idea is people respond to prices as signals. As price levels increase, it might signal to firms that's a really good market to move into. If price levels are falling, that might signal to businesses it's a really bad market to move into. Now, the last one is the incentive function. Now, the idea is, remember, firms exist to make profit. So rationally, firms are created to generate as much profit as possible. So the logic would be that when price levels are increasing, it will incentivize firms to want to produce more, because as price levels grow, there is an increased ability to make profit. If price levels fall, there's an incentive to leave or to produce less, with the logic being lower prices would make it more difficult to make profits. Okay, guys, now what would be really, really good in your exam if you can reference the rationing, signalling and incentive functions. Now, just to end this video, you've got a few questions on your screen. These are all linked to the rationing, signalling and incentive functions. So what you need to do, please, is to copy down these questions, write down your answers, and when you feel you're comfortable, you've now finished this video, and I will check your answers when we get back into the classroom. Right, guys, thank you very much.